We're still dancing, JD. We made it through the first weekend. We're on our way to the Sweet 16. How sweet does it feel?
It's the best. There's something about I just said it in the preview of this game. There's just a special feel about carving away the wheat from the chaff and being one of the 16. So there are 68 teams in the beginning, and it's a long weekend, 4 days, and we're not done with today, but we're one of the 16, one game at a time. But we'll get to that later. This game has a lot of very interesting storylines.
It sure does. And let's break down the game before we go into some of the storylines and how everything went. So the game starts off. It was a close game, a back and forth affair, and Duke. I mean, it started off with a Proctor three for Duke, and boy, was that was that a sign of things to come. But it was Duke having efficient offense and Baylor. I mean, I guess you could say Baylor, but I think you could correctly say Norchad O'Meara getting offensive rebounds, Baylor getting loose balls, and that kept a minute. It was 7-6 through the first segment. Um, Roach comes in after the first segment, hits a step back three when he first enters the game. Got some separation from Con Knipple. I thought the substitutions were interesting for Duke with Gangba. That was pretty typical coming in for Malawach. But what was interesting was Foster was the seventh guy for Duke today. And that was a little bit surprising. I gotta say, actually, the one thing I forgot about here in the beginning part of the game was just before the end of the first segment, Coop gets hit in the eye by Norchad O'Meara, and that looked nasty early on.
It did. It was swollen. I got 43 stitches in my eye once, but I didn't know if he could see because it was swollen and his eye was definitely struggle. He was struggling a bit, but then he goes to the foul line. He hits one of two, and then was he okay? Yeah, when we got all upset that with two fouls and
Well, we're
about
gonna get to
five,
that. We're gonna get to
about
that.
all right.
Just hold on. We're just going through the first half. Then we'll go through the storylines in the second half. So after Coop started playing better after he couldn't see out of one eye. It seemed like he was getting downhill, got a couple and ones, got to the free throw line. Proctor hits another three. Duke was up 15-13 through the first 9 minutes or so. And at that point, I was like, okay, it's a close game, but I think we're gonna, find some separation. And then it was different guys for Baylor: Norchad O'Meara, Rob Bright. I think Langston Love had a three. And all of a sudden, after it was the first segment that Duke has lost in the NCAA tournament, that third segment of the first half, where Baylor was up 24-23. And then Duke goes on a 24-6 run to end the first half. And you can talk about that and Cooper Flag's foul trouble. I got to let the dog out.
Okay. Well, there's no question about it that Coop himself showed us that his eye was really not an issue at all. It just he had another great dunk. He had a terrific 3-pointer. He was being Cooper and was part of that run. And I think yes, it put us up by, eventually would put us up by 17 for the half. But we just were in command of the game and loved it. Just loved it.
I thought, there's two key fouls in that like spurt towards the end of the first half. First, was Omir picking up his third foul, which Duke was already on a 9-0 run before that happened. But Omir was by far and away the best and most impactful player for Baylor, and him having to play in foul trouble in the second half limited some of his impact. And then obviously Cooper's second foul with, let me check my notes, 6 minutes and 50 seconds to go. Duke went on a run without him, and then he comes back in with two fouls.
And you and I are going, no, no, screaming, do not put him back in again. We do not want the third foul in the first half. Don't do it, Shire. You don't know what you're doing. You've made this mistake before. And then
he scores
Cooper
7 points in about 2 minutes and extends the lead. And not only were we concerned about that, but we'd also seen both times where his defense goes down a couple notches because he doesn't want to pick up the third foul. So the other team was able to. It was the Illinois game and the North Carolina game where they were able to get a couple easy buckets, and that didn't happen. So that's why we're over here, and Coach Shire's the head coach of the team.
uh, little doubt about that, but um, we'll save another reason why I really just love this guy. No, I love the idea that he had a 20-point lead at the end of the game, and he let the second string, then he let the third string get into the game. And so far, 2 games out of 2 games, the lead was big enough. And he said, I am going to let everyone feel what it is like to be on the court for March Madness. And I think he's a very special coach.
He is. And that first half, it was Coop and it was Proctor, and I think at this point we can kind of expect that. But it was also Patrick Gangba, who has continued to play really well. He got to the free throw line a ton. There was a little strange play, towards the end of the first half where he fouled the guy Dubravicic, and then Dubravicic kind of yanked him down with him. He was like, "I'm not going down by myself. You're coming with me," kind of thing.
Hook and
And
hold.
yeah,
Took him
got,
down.
as you called that right. It was a flagrant, and Gangba also had a block, at least one block. We'll go through the stats here in a little bit. Um, I thought his defensive effort was good. Again, he just gives Duke the ability. It was interesting. He got one post up I think in the second half, where Langston Love was kind of able to force him out and make his jump hook be from a little further than he probably wanted to. But overall, Gangba gives us he is a different threat offensively than Malawach with his ability to play off the bounce and in the post. And he's given us a lot of really good minutes of late. And then also a little bit of surprise in terms of their performance in a positive way, certainly in the first half. Caleb Foster gave us really good minutes in the first half. I thought he came in, thought he was poised. I thought he met the moment. I thought his defense was good. He got a couple of assists. He got a nice bucket as well. He was just steady, especially in the first half.
I also want to point out, though, that as amazing as Cooper is, we did see a little flash of Cooper nastiness on the second foul call because he had committed the foul. He was annoyed. And then it was a flagrant elbow. Fortunately, he did not make contact there, but he was angry. He threw his elbow out, and I've not seen him. I've seen him occasionally lose control, okay, but I've never seen him physically do something that, if he had landed it, that is not a basketball play. That would very well have been a flagrant one. And depending on where the guy would have been, let's say the guy was in his crouch, he would have hit him in his head, would have been gone.
I'm not there with you. I think it was an offensive foul, rightfully called. I'm not on the flagrant train. I'll leave that. I'll leave you on an island there. Because I think it was a basketball play. It was just an offensive foul because he led with that elbow or the off arm.
Put it in the chat if you think Jack is right that that was a basketball play, or when Coop just went, man, and he threw his elbow at the guy, whether
See,
that in fact could have been a flagrant. Just put it in the chat. We're done. We're done.
well, no, because I think the way you describe it is not the way I saw it. Because you're going like this, it was more like this, which is two different things.
Oh,
Like,
no, no, no. I absolutely saw it as a flagrant.
all right, well, we're gonna agree to disagree because I did not see a flagrant at all. Um, let's see, who else didn't we touch on so far? Sion James. Sion had a little bit of a slow start, and then I thought towards the end of the first half and then the second half, I thought he got it going. He was aggressive attacking the basket, and I thought his defense and size was better or was impactful, I should say, against the smaller Baylor guards in this game. Um, I'll get to the stats in a little bit. And I thought Khan had a slow start, certainly in the first half, but he had a couple of timely buckets in the second half. He drew the fourth foul in the way that Khan does. With where, yep,
Got him to
fake,
jump. Got
and
him
then
to jump.
he certainly got him up in the air, and then he was able to finish. And lastly, for me, Mason Gillis finally was able to see a three-pointer go down, and that is big for his confidence. He saw 2 3-pointers. He hit one towards the end of the game as well, and that's really big for Duke and Mason Gillis moving ahead in this tournament.
I think that K2 has been adjusting his play to ensure that he can fit in, or with Coop coming back, the Coop can fit in, and that it isn't always certainly not as dominant as he had been without Cooper Flag, but I think he's doing the right things to ensure that there is a smooth transition to bring Cooper right back into the game. And so there are times at which I say, I don't know, but he hit a three-pointer. I don't know, but he does a really good job of getting the fourth foul on Omir. I don't know, but he goes aggressively to the basket. His passing, he also had, I think, an alley-oop to, I think he had one alley-oop to Mal, I think.
Okay.
We'll get corrected, but
You'll get corrected.
Oh boy! All right.
I didn't say it.
All right. Let's see.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, let's go to the stats before we hit up the chat and see where we got things wrong. Cooper, listen, he had it was kind of a strange game. Gets poked in the eye early. There was also the foul called on him in the first minute, which we were like, didn't see it, didn't get a replay of it. It was kind of strange. He finished with 18 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists.
And poor Kenny Smith, he's okay, but he's surrounded by everyone. If he really doesn't play that great, he's an okay. Kenny Smith, get over it already. This guy is a once-in-a-generation player, even without minutes. I mean, it'd be interesting if you can integrate the minutes for Cooper Flag there. He got those stats, and half the time I go, where is he? He's on the bench.
I don't have the minutes right now, and I also don't have my phone near me, so we're gonna rely on the chat for the minutes today.
I think he was under 30, but I'll see if I can grab it.
Okay, we'll see if you can. Listen, if you grab it, I'll give you a lot of credit for that. That would be impressive. Proctor had 25 points, 7 3-pointers. It's the third straight game for Tyrese Proctor with at least 6 threes. That is insane. He has been, I think, a heater at this point is an understatement. He's a flamethrower. Just every time he shoots it, it's going in. And my thing with Proctor right now, he's got a look on his face like he is locked in. He's got like no emotion until one of the last ones he celebrated, but other than that, he's just going back on defense, next play mentality. Khan finished with 12 points and 3 assists, knocked down a pair of threes. Maluach had 8 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 blocks. Sion had 6 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. Gangba had 8 points, a couple boards, an assist, a steal, and 2 blocks. And Maluach had 2 blocks. The big fellas combined for 4 blocks in this one. Gillis had 6 points, those 2 3-pointers, and 4 rebounds. Foster had 6 points and 3 assists. And Evans did not have 7 points. I think that's an ESPN stat typo. So we're going to go on here to the chat, JD, and we'll see. We'll give you some time.
Evans actually shows up in one place with not having scored today, and I
That
think
seems right.
an eruption is coming. I think it's coming. So I don't see the minutes yet. It's not. Where else should I check for the minutes, Jack?
Did you check Bleacher Report?
All right.
See if you can find it. I'll go through. We'll start going through the chat here.
Go ahead.
All right. Pay the Piper. Impressive win for Duke. Proctor equals amazing. He sure does. He's been awesome. Lighting with the threes. Coop and Khan, solid in the paint. Overall, fantastic on the defensive end today. Amazing scoring percentage, nearly 65% field goal and 55% three. Spot on. This is kind of a strange take from all those positives, but it reminds me of the one negative I wanted to make sure I talked about from this game, which was, yes, Duke was awesome offensively. We gave up 18 offensive rebounds to Baylor. And that is a little bit worrisome moving forward in the tournament. I think that's something we'll correct. And I think Omier only finished with he had 6 of them. That's a lot. He forced a lot of the team rebounds, so we're not gonna face a Norchad Omier again. But that is something I am going to be focused on in the next game for sure. Can we do a better job? Because I felt like Baylor got a lot of offensive rebounds, and they got a ton of the loose ball, the 50-50 balls that Coach Shire talks about. And we've got to do a little bit better in that area moving forward. But again, I'm being critical in a 23-point win. So it's a bit different. Joe M. Gillis being able to hit his 3 is good for his confidence. Completely agree, Joe. He had missed his first 3 of this game, so he was 0 for his last 11, and then he knocked down his last 2. Very important for Gillis moving forward to hit those 2 threes. Pay the Piper. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. Jack and JD would be appreciative. Appreciate you, Pay the Piper. I'm glad you got that in early because typically I forget till the end. So I'm very thankful
so
for
how
you.
Close to Pay the Pipers? How close are we?
Good question, JD. We are currently at 1,594 subscribers. So the Sweet 16 starts Thursday, guys. We're trying to get to 1,600 by the Sweet 16. Thanks, JD. That was a good plug right there. We're 6 away. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. It really helps us here at Talking Ball. The hard take. They need to get Slim out of a slump. Maybe do that in practice, though. I think that was your point earlier, that he's due for an eruption. And I agree. It's just, I think it's a matter of time, the hard take. Like, it's going to be in one of these games. We saw in the ACC tournament, it was the Georgia Tech game, and we really needed that in that game. Started off the game 0 for 13 from 3. And Evans was able to hit 4 threes in that game. I think in one of these games, he is going to hit 3 3-pointers.
He's saving it for the Auburn game.
What, one of the big games? Yeah, maybe Houston or Tennessee, if that's who we would play. But we're not there yet. All we're worried about is Arizona or Oregon at this point. That's all we're thinking about. Ryan Thornhill. Has anybody considered that we might actually be 10 plus points better than the rest of the field? Um, I've considered it. I've considered it. I've I'm hesitant to say it because I'm always worried, but I have at times thought that this Duke team reminds me a bit of UConn's run last year. But we're still early, guys. And the hard take says maybe 20 plus points better, and Duke hasn't been firing on all cylinders yet. I agree with that last point. It's been the first two games. It's been Flag and Proctor, although with the with the way Proctor's firing, he kind of makes up for the other guys not hitting their threes. Um,
Well, and so in our pregame, there were four players that we thought could contribute to the offense.
yep,
So one was Gillis,
he had
who
two threes.
hit two threes, and it's exactly what we wanted from Gillis. Um, Evans,
Not
still
yet.
not there, not there. Um, who were we had
Sion and Khan. Those are the other two.
Sion. So Sion
Not
still
not yet.
does what he needs to do, though. I mean, he is. It may not be that we need a 10 point, and Khan is, I think, really trying to mold himself into playing with Coop. So it all signs point to Evans. It's Evans with the eruption, and maybe it's practice, maybe it's this, but again, getting him ready. Would somebody, as a shooter, would somebody in a slump? Yes, you can practice, but it's got to, and you can practice, but it's how you practice. It's practice with two guys coming at you. You practice all kinds of situations so that somehow game time, although it's always more pressure, the situational shooting is I'm used to it. I'm ready. You know, his handle was always why we gave him the nickname Quick Draw. Um, he's not doing it the way he was, although we loved his other 2 pointers.
Yeah,
And yeah,
I'm not quite. I'm not quite on the. He's in a slump bandwagon because I think it's been two games. Like he hit a couple of threes against Louisville. He hasn't got a ton of playing time as of late either. That's part of it. Um, but I agree with you. I think he's due. I also think Khan easily could have a game where he scores 20, and I think
yep.
Sion will score in double digits as we move later into the tournament. I think his drives he'll knock down. He didn't hit. Did he hit a three today? I don't think so. Let me double check that. He was 0 for 2 from 3 today. Like, I think he's got some double digit performances. So I think in the event, which at this point may never happen, that Proctor slows down, I think the other guys will pick up for him. So I think you guys are spot on. This team is playing well, and there's guys on this team that can take it up to another level. Um, in some ways, including Coop, who had a really good first half. In the second half, I think both you and I felt like there were times where there was a little too much one on one, a little too much dribbling, and then towards the end of the second half, he was getting guys involved. He found Malawach, he found Proctor. That's the Coop that is most effective for Duke. Joe M. A really good tournament game and very tough first half, or at least first 12 minutes of the first half. Good to get under the belt for the rest of the tournament. Yeah, I agree. It was important to have. I mean, it's funny because it's a game where Duke wins by 23, but those first 12 minutes were highly competitive, back and forth. I think there was a few lead changes in there, so it was a good game to have. Also, very different than the other one seeds who were all tested um, a lot more to slightly varying degrees. Auburn had a tough time with Creighton, although they separated towards the end. Houston had Gonzaga pretty much at arm's length until the end of the game when Gonzaga made it close. And Florida was in for. They had a really hard game against UConn, and I thought UConn was going to pull that one out for a large stretch of the second half. But that's a number one seed. That's a one of those top teams. They found a way to win at the end, led by Walter Clayton and company. Pay the piper. Omier was a lot to handle in the first until foul trouble hit.
And it's a really good point because we said, what happens if Omier was not in foul trouble? We didn't seem to have a very good answer for him. So do I think we talked about this a bit, that we win, but we don't win by 23 the way he was going.
Right.
Um,
I think it's much closer to like the Houston Gonzaga game than what it ended up being, where we
yeah,
we may. I don't even know if it's as close to that. Like I think it's maybe like an 8-point game, throughout most of it, because Duke did stretch the lead when Omier was still playing, I believe, with 2 fouls. But once he got his third, that's when it really got out of hand and they couldn't come back. Admissions GCAS, great program, guys. Thank you, Admissions. Appreciate that.
thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
you
you.
coming back to the show. Ryan Jones. Ryan was at the game, JD. I have
Oh,
no voice.
okay. He has no voice.
Was sitting behind Baylor bench and yelling at the refs for 10 game minutes about 22. I think that's Dubravicic, even before he got a flagrant. Dirty player shoving our guys and never sets his feet on screens. I'm glad you said that, Ryan. I had noticed a couple of plays before that where I felt like Dubravicic could have been called for fouls. So, and he did end up getting his flagrant, deservedly so.
And props to you for being at the game. I mean, that is something we always look for. Is there any way to do it? And the next games are going to be up by me. Not. I mean, it's a little bit of a drive to get to Newark, but the last time I checked on StubHub, single ticket in a decent seat where you're not watching it on the jumbotron is over $3,000. So very, very jealous that you were in there. And I wonder if you can confirm for us what we thought was that even though the first game was an amazing game, it didn't seem like the place had filled in terms of attendance until the second half of the first game when the Duke fans were starting to show up. It seemed as if it was a Duke crowd, especially being in North Carolina.
For sure. I mean, it was at NC State arena, if I remember correctly, which is about 25 minutes from Cameron, so pretty close by.
Make certain Lawrence Friedman knows when he listens to this that this does count as yet another win in NC State in our tour of the Revenge Tour. We actually beat a opponent in their arena, so that counts. Maybe halfway.
Ryan also says, got to see Proctor tie John Shire's record for consecutive threes live. Let's go, Duke. And by the way, I'm glad you brought that up, Ryan. Grant Hill, they were talking about how these guys they don't remember Coach Shire as a player. I don't believe that. Okay, I don't believe that, especially when you consider the fact that 2 of the 3 best players on the team, Flag and Knipple, I don't know if it's Flag's favorite player, but it's certainly Khan's, is Larry Bird. And those guys are basketball historians. I think while they may not have been Duke fans, I know Khan wasn't. He was rooting for Wisconsin in the 2015 final, but he's from Wisconsin. That makes sense. But they know about John Shire, the player. They may have not watched it when they were a kid, but they know
It's
about it.
as you've schooled me, it's the age of YouTube. So, hey, how did Coach play? I'm sure they've all checked it out.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Um, Joe M says the crowd sounded awesome. he says this to Ryan during the second half. It was nice to see Shire and then Proctor hug Roach at the end of the game. Sad to see Roach like that. It's thank you, Joe. That's a good segue. Um, didn't I don't know if you caught that, JD. I didn't see that, so that's good to hear. Because listen, as you know, it's hard. We don't know exactly what that conversation was like at the end of last year, with which led Roach into the portal. But from the outside perspective, that at least my perspective, I don't know about yours, JD. It seemed like they basically said to Roach, we don't have a spot for you next year. And this is a guy who spent 4 years at Duke. He's a member of the Brotherhood. He had to spend his last year at Baylor. It didn't go the way it he wanted it to. I think that's easy to say from an outside perspective. This game he didn't play great after his first bucket early on, but he's a Duke guy, and I wish him all the best. Moving forward, and it's just unfortunate that it had to be against Duke this game.
So, obviously, a couple of thoughts. One, to Coach Drew on Baylor, um, it it appeared that he did give Jeremy Roach a lot of minutes, and given that he had lost his starting position on the Baylor team to the other guard, I thought that was pretty classy, knowing that he had transferred to Baylor, hoping to be the starting point guard. That's one. Two, he I, Duke wins by 23, so I could really enjoy the moment where he came underneath and started to go back around Coop and then ducked inside and picked his. Well, he didn't pick his. I don't know what the right expression is for that, but he went back in and scored over him. To which, as he was passing
Yeah.
Coop, he put his hand on Coop's chest, and you saw Coop sort of staring at. Look, one thing's clear, that my initial impressions of Cooper Flagg not being a celebrating player were completely wrong. About not having trash talking. There was that other exchange which you got right, Jack, and then maybe we both got it right based on the announcers, that Cooper Flagg played with at
Montverde,
Mount
Rob Wright.
Rob Wright at Mount Bird, and so they knew each other, because there was clearly that one time
That
when
was
Coop was on the free throw line, and they were just jawing at each other. But you said it came more from the fact that they knew each other, and then the announcer said, "Well, that kind of also sounded like they were trash talking at each other." So
I think that instance it was Coop and Edgecombe who were kind of talking about it. I think even though they didn't play together in high school, those are two top five recruits. I'm sure at multiple of the high school all star games. Whether that's McDonald's, Jordan Brand, you name it, they've spent a lot of time together. So there's a lot of familiarity between both sides, and on top of that, Norchad O'Meara, who Duke saw several times while he was at Miami. All right, let's keep going, JD. Ryan Jones. Also, Coop looked much better mobility wise today, even off ball. No limps or grimaces. Ryan, I want to appreciate you for being our in arena reporter here, because
absolutely.
we didn't know Coop was struggling off the ball. It wasn't as obvious to us on TV, so I'm glad to hear he's moving better, and hopefully now his eye is okay by Thursday. That doesn't swell up. It seems to go down in swelling, but he just seems to pick up something every other game. All right. Pay the Piper. Medals. I'll read out what Pay the Piper said, and then I'll give my thoughts. I like that you're doing this, Pay the Piper. Gold, Proctor. Completely agree. Silver, Coop. Completely agree. Bronze. He gave a three-way tie. Khan, Maluach, Gangba. Man. If I had to pick one between the three, Gangba. I think his now you could probably, you could probably do Gangba first half, Khan second half. I think that would be fair.
Well, and also, if once you break it down by halves, which is not our rules for how we do
Nope.
this, we also thought that Foster may have gotten the bronze for the first half. It was the smoothest that I have seen Foster playing. But second half, he didn't have the same swagger. He didn't have the same motion, and maybe was gathering maybe a little too much in minutes. But going back to what Coach Shire had said many times during the year, we're going to need um, Caleb Foster to be there for us if we're going to go deep. And he's giving, boy, he is surely giving him every chance. And the last two games, I have really little quarrel with it.
He's played really well of late. All right. Yeah, I think that's fair. Okay, this is fun. Admissions, GCAS, Coop was out of control. This is from before. Wait, before you celebrate.
All right. Good.
Joe M. I'm on Jack's side on the Cooper foul. So we're 1-1 here. We're 1-1, So
I think all right.
let's leave it there. We're 1-1. It's a tie. We'll move on.
But let's to get out of the debate as to which way to
Sure.
go. And clearly, we've got two comments that suggest you're right, I'm right. It does seem that you can get under his skin and physically, if you hurt him, he plays better. You hit him in the face and his one eye closed and he goes on a 7-point run. But it does seem like there are flashes of where you can irritate him, and he and that flash of the elbow, sorry, strikes me as he kind of lost control a little bit.
Well, all right. Sure, I'm still not quite there. Because he was trying to back him down. But let's put that to the side, as you said initially. But then you reeled back in. So let's go to the North Carolina game, which is a recent game where we had something similar. He picks up his first foul, contesting a Drake Powell shot, and then Powell was doing a really good job putting pressure on Duke, bringing the ball up the court. He stole it from Con Knipple. And Flag was trying to create separation, and he pushes off, right, with his forearm. And that led to Coop's second foul. And then we bring him back in, and he runs over Withers, he pitched a tent. He was there well in advance. So he was clear, he admitted after the game that was a bad, charge, right? So he clearly wasn't in the right mental state. But the thing I love about Coop is that second half of the North Carolina game, he completely took over. And so, to your point, at times you can kind of get him off rhythm, but he's always seemed to have the ability to find that again when Duke needs him to. So
I agree, and I think that teams know or believe that to beat Duke, if Coop's in the game, they have got to figure out some way to take him out of his rhythm. And because he's such a good distributor, doesn't matter if he's scoring 25 points, if he's grabbing 10 rebounds and having 8 assists, fine, he scored 12 points. I mean, he's controlling, and I will always say that there is that ice hockey assist that he has, being 6'9", how tall?
yeah, 6'9".
6'9". He sees the court, and this is Kenny the Jet Smith should just go away. This guy sees the court so well that he knows that his first pass will lead to the second pass for the bucket. And that's the ice hockey assist. And that is, it is extraordinary, his ability to see over and see everything happening on the court.
Admissions. I graduated from Duke in 2000. I was Shane's teaching assistant, I believe is TA. Duke gonna take it this year. That's before I go to the next comment, which is a question for you, JD. That's freaking cool. Shane Battier is one I was like 5, but he's one of my favorite Duke players of all time. Talk about all the things you just mentioned with Cooper in terms of his ability to impact the game without scoring. That was Shane Battier, and then he goes on
Completely.
and he's an all world defender in the NBA level. So much so that one of the few people that Kobe gave credit to as a defender, Shane Battier.
And to be Battier's assistant.
All right, next question from admissions is for you, JD. I'm gonna let you answer this one. Is that snow outside your window?
Oh, no, no. It's it is cold. Hence the hat. It is. We were in the 20s this morning, but no. We actually had a little bit of springtime, so it's just really the reflection and the lawn is not green. That won't happen for a couple of months.
All right, pay the piper. Foster's bucket at the end of the first was enough for me to know that Duke was in full control, and we're not going to allow Baylor to put in a comeback in the second like UNC. The UNC games prepared them. Yeah, I mean, I forgot about Foster getting that bucket at the end of the first half. That was important. And I also think part of the difference in those games was in one game, we had the guy to put the ball in down the stretch to give, and flag. And the UNC game, that was the first full game without Cooper. And I think that showed down the stretch. And I think, to your point, Pay the Piper, I think the team really learned from that game in the Louisville game, where without Cooper, they were able to extend the lead in the second half, and win that one convincingly down the stretch.
I just think that the idea that somehow Shire has got, I mean, just, if you think of the arc of Caleb Foster, the starting guard, the non-starting guard, the barely getting any minutes player with, gee, we don't want him in the rotation, to you and I saying it's March Madness and we're perfectly comfortable with him on the court. It also was a pretty good matchup between him and Jeremy Roach. That was a good matchup, I thought, for Caleb.
And as part of the reason he played more in the North Carolina game, I think it's matchup dependent for sure. Joe M. I was honestly so scared when Proctor slipped while dribbling during the second
Oh
half.
boy.
The season flashed in front of my eyes. Me
Oh
too,
boy.
Joe. Me too.
No. Absolutely.
I was so happy when he got up and ran back because I was, yeah. Let's leave. Knock
Well,
on wood.
reminiscent of when you'll have to tell me which game, but remember when he went out of bounds and it looked like he tweaked his ankle?
The Miami game. I thought it was like may have like a hyperextended his knee or something, and then he only missed the one game afterwards. I was completely
Right.
surprised. You're spot on. That's a good one to bring up. And speaking of Proctor, King Lord says Tyrese Proctor is a beast in 3 points. He's a 3-pointer machine. Yeah, he's on one heck of a tear right now. It's like it's like Steph Curry levels right now with the way he's shooting the ball. It's like every time he gets space, and the thing he's doing right now is he's
Is
getting the
creating the
flyby.
space.
Yes,
Yes.
he is. Now the opponents are so worried about him getting an open three. They're flying at him, and he's calmly pump fake, sidestep. Let me get this off. The one he had, it may have been his last one or second to last one, where he didn't even create much space over Celestine moving to his right. And Celestine's 6'7". Like, he's not a small guy. And I mean, neither is Proctor. He's 6'6", in fairness. But boy, he's firing him up there. And let me say this: if he keeps shooting the way he is, I thought for a while he was going to be a second round pick, and come back to Duke with that being the case, if he goes on a run the rest of March, he's a first round pick. He's gone. And I'd be really happy if that's the case because that means Duke has gone on and won, the title. So he is. I, I've run out of adjectives to kind of describe the shooting performance from Proctor of late.
And now that it's been 3 games in a row, it causes the other team to have to say, well, we got a Keon Cooper or Khan, and all right, he'll get what he'll get, but not anymore. They're now going to have to, which it's just going to create more open space for other players.
I mean, I don't think this is a secret, so I don't think I'm hurting Duke by saying this. But if I were an opposing coach, I would be trying to make Sion James shoot 6 threes. That would be my philosophy defensively because you can't give up Malawatch lobs. You got to keep your big man at home or somebody big around him, and you can't give up Khan or you can't give space to Khan or Proctor. They're going to knock down their shot. So that would be the guy if you have to leave somebody. Pay the piper. On a different note, that UConn-Florida game was fun to watch. Thankfully, we're going to have a new national champion this year. Duke. That was, for us, for a different reason, a lot of fun to watch and not a great ending. Because my mom, JD's wife, is a UConn fan. So we've been it's been a kind of a rough 2 years in some ways for us, but we've been rooting for them. But we've heard a lot about how great UConn is, and boy, have they been great. And this was not their best team, but they were right there at the end of that game.
And she's not just a UConn fan, it's lineage because both your grandparents both are UConn graduates. So
that's right.
There's a lot of vested interest. They love the UConn women. They are UConn through and through, and that was 13 games in a row up until today with what looked like it was going to be the 14th win in a row in tournament play, which is just incredible run.
Yeah. Pay the piper. I put an extra R in there. On a different note, that UConn. Oh wait, I'm reading the same one. Duke definitely looked to have Butterfingers today. Was driving me nuts. That contributed to the stats that I expressed concerned about. Yeah, that was part of it. It was that. I think you can boil it down to that in Norchad O'Meara. And that was why Baylor had so many offensive rebounds. All right, this is a good one. Wes Midnight Assassin. I was the closest again on score 87-67. I think I need JD's scarf for my prize.
We are working on it. Jack brings it up after every game. We're trying to figure out. This was given to me. This scarf was given.
We're
to me
gonna figure it out. We're gonna
figure it out. And you don't want one of the silk ones. These are. Look, I live in upstate New York, so it's cold. This is a great. As I love to say, this is a hell of a scarf.
And Wes, all I'm going to add is you've got 4 wins now, so you've got a 2-game cushion on Lawrence Freeman. And the only thing I'm going to add is if I were you, I would go buy a lottery ticket. You've been within 2 or 3 points these last couple games. Like you've got some sort of mojo going on right now. I think it would be a good time for you to go play the lottery. Wes also says Proctor looks like Curry out there shooting them 3-pointers. I love it. I agree. Ryan Jones says, this was to your point earlier, JD. Yes, it was feeling very full of Duke fans in there.
Okay. Thank you.
Good to know. And also, while Newark isn't Madison Square Garden, there should still be a lot of Duke fans there. It's close enough. So I think that will be good for the Blue Devils moving forward. And our last comment as of this moment, is Joe M. Uh, this was to my point on the game plan against Duke. Then Sion is going to make his threes right away, like the UNC game, destroying their game plan. I think you're right, Joe. Sion has tended to save his best offensive performances for when Duke has needed them the most, and I think that's spot on. Joe M says, "Oh man, I thought I had this game right with 88-65." If that's right, Joe, you may have got the win, and I got to go back and make sure. So, JD, give us your thoughts really quickly here because I got to double check and make sure I had this right.
Okay, you're working on that. I will say I don't.
Oh, he is right. Major correction. I'm sorry, Wes.
Update.
Joe, you are right. You are right. You were off by 1 point. Yeah, 89-66. You had it 88-65. Wes was off by 2 points. You're still in the lead, Wes. I was wrong. I apologize. But Joe gets his first win here. So thank you, Joe, for correcting me. I apologize. You're absolutely right. Go ahead, JD.
The scarf can still be yours. But boy, we can't jump the gun since we're going to record tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon at the latest for the Sweet 16. But boy, does it feel good. It just feels good to be in the Sweet 16. And I know last year, Elite Eight, but one game at a time. One game at a time.
One game at a time. Still dancing. Once again, I want to say sorry, Joe. I missed it. I tried to go back through all the comments. I missed yours at the end. Glad you corrected me. And as you said, we get one more Duke game. That's what more joy could there be? So with that being said, guys, we will see you guys with the preview. We'll have that out tomorrow afternoon, and it will be either Oregon or Arizona. We'll find out late tonight who will be playing. And yeah, if you haven't subscribed, listen, we're trying to get 1,600 by the Sweet 16. We've got the rest of today. We got tomorrow, Tuesday,
6 more.
Wednesday. We need 6 more. So we're almost there. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.